Wanna talk? So let's talk. Yeah. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk, you wanna talk.
Welcome, folks. It's Talk to Solomon. My name is Stan Solomon. I'm the host. Co-hosting with me tonight is my friend Greg Howard, a financial expert and a patriot and a Marine. Greg, how are you this evening?
Doing well, sir. Glad to be here.
You know, it's the first day of after the coronation of the Constitution Killer-in-Chief, Barack O'Braindead. And at any rate, in celebration of that august time, we have one of America's greats, former Major General Jerry Curry, or current Major General Jerry Curry, retired. General, how are you?
Super. How are you doing?
Just fine. Well, I'm doing better than the country is, because the country is just having to carry a barge load of crap and call it president. By the way, I hate to start with the negative, but we just had a comment made by Greg Howard that this president is, as fast as he possibly can, eliminating constitutionalists from our general officer corps and replacing them with toads, with Al Gores, with people who will do what they're told without concern or regard for constitutionality. Do you accept that statement?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's exactly where he's going. That anybody who's going to stand up and be counted, who's going to oppose him, who's going to say that's not constitutional, he's going to eliminate that person as best he can and replace him with somebody who will kiss up to him and do whatever he wants.
Well, on that note, which, by the way, is the most cacophonous note in the history of the world, we have to fear for the republic, do we not?
Absolutely. This man is dangerous, and we need some people in the House and in the Senate who understand that and who are willing to stand up and be counted and oppose him.
Well, when you have, and I'll get Greg to add to his thoughts to this, but, and I said this before, when you have a president and his party who have now shown that they don't have to play by the rules, that they can lie, that they can cheat, that they can steal elections, why would they pay any attention at all to the constitutional process?
Because the House and the Senate, those people in the House and the Senate who do care about it and who are concerned about the Constitution, who do want to live by it and act by it and walk by it, those people need to stand up and be counted, and they need to say very clearly to the president, we're not going to let you go down this road. We are going to oppose you at every turn.
And they could find themselves getting assassinated. Greg.
Well, the problem is, of course, is that many of the people in Congress, as Larry mentioned before, become either drunk with power or become lily-livered at some threat or whatever the case may be, and do not fulfill their oath of office and actually take care of their role as oversight of the executive branch. And as a result, we do have a commander-in-chief, as we talked about in the previous segment, who is purging out the general officers who stand against him, the latest being General Mattis, a fine officer, absolutely, totally respectable, being pushed out of CENTCOM. And this is for grave concern because we are now seeing more and more officers out of the Council of Foreign Relations mode, and these folks will, in fact, do anything they're told to do, and this is not the type of officer, general flag officer, we need under the control of what I consider, in my opinion, to be a madman.
Well, it brings back memories, and of course, before the time of most of us, of what happened in Japan prior to their initiation of their program, which, of course, led to World War II. General, you could comment on that.
It did that, too, and also flip back at the same time and throw England in there. And remember that we had Winston Churchill, who stood almost single-handedly opposed to the government all by himself from 1929 to 1939. There was only Churchill. Churchill stood up there and looked the whole nation in the face. People criticized him. They laughed at him. They made fun of him. They told stories about him. He was the butt of jokes in all of the newspapers. But he was absolutely right, and he never backed down in the entire time. The same kind of thing we need in the United States, and certainly that's what you're talking about in Japan.
Well, in Japan, they purged all of the general officers that were against becoming aggressive. They had a major dichotomy in thought process, and they forced out all of their general officers that weren't for becoming aggressors, right?
Right, and that's what is going to happen in the United States. That's where we're going, and my prediction is that's where we're going to end up.
It's scary. Now, there's a story that Obama has let the Chinese come in and buy parts of major energy resources in a manner that no previous president has allowed. And I have a list here. In Colorado, they gained a 1/3 stake in an 800,000 acre in northeast Colorado and southwest Wyoming. In Louisiana, a 1/3 interest in a 265,000 acre site there in Tuscaloosa. In Michigan, a 1/3 interest in 350,000 acres. In Ohio, a 1/3 interest in 235,000 acres. In Oklahoma, and I can just go on and on. I mean, we're not talking chump change here. We're talking where they would have an ability to impact our energy. It's not bad enough that we're buying energy we don't really need, and we're not developing energy that we have, but they're getting involved where they could have control of energy we do have.
I think they're very smart. They understand what they're doing very well. They know exactly what they're dealing with in this president. We really don't know what secret conversations have taken place between him and the Chinese. We don't know what's really going on in Washington. The Chinese are doing the wise thing. I think I would invest in the United States too, and I would invest in energy especially in the United States. So they're doing it, and there's going to be a payoff for them down the road unless we get a new president in who is willing to stand up and be counted.
Greg?
Well, I read an article today that America's energy boom would be a horrible setback for the Chinese if it were allowed to be or allowed to go forward, and I suspect that this may be one of the reasons why we're seeing the EPA and every other trick in the book being used to block coal, to block shale, to block the pipeline, to block everything having to do with energy. This appeared on Business Insider. This is not a loony website. This is a reputable business website that anyone can go and find the article. It appeared this morning. And the problem would be basically that the United States would experience such a boom that Chinese currency would actually fall apart because their hold on our debt would diminish in its value to them. And so I think that we need to revisit the whole energy issue because China would actually be at a great disadvantage if we were to have an actual energy boom in this country.
Yeah, fracking comes to mind. The left are doing their best to eliminate the use of fracking, even though it has been almost single-handedly the reason we have seen enhanced production in this country with all of the roadblocks that Obama and his hired thugs have put in the way.
Well, energy is security, and one of the first things that we did against Germany in World War II was to make it very difficult for them to obtain energy to fuel their tanks. And General, I'm sure, understands the strategic value of energy much more than I do. I only know it from a good amount of education at a military college called the Citadel. He has this information from practical experience as a general officer. But as you know, if you can strangle a nation from an energy standpoint, you control its economy and its military.
General?
Absolutely, you got it right on the target. Greg, you have laid it out as clearly as it can be laid out. You know, at one time, so Stan, you know that I used to command Everett Proving Ground, where we did the engineer development testing for all of the Army weapons, vehicles, that sort of thing. And so while I was there, we talked about this energy business. And what Greg says is absolutely true. If you can get a stranglehold on a nation's energy, it's like getting a stranglehold on their money. There's nothing they can really do to survive that. It's going to be a problem for them, and you will come out on top of it every time.
All right, now let's shift gears in a way. The French, known for their military prowess, but they have the French Foreign Legion. They have some good military people. It's a small force, but they committed, now we're talking committing a few thousand military people to an African country called Mali. But they went in and kicked butt. They went in and killed people. They went in and wiped out whatever they needed to wipe out to undermine and defeat Islamic extremists. And there were threats, and there are still threats, but they're not big enough to go there and spend the next 5 years tinkering around the corners. They got to go in and win, or they can't persevere. Am I close to correct there, General?
Yeah, they've got, and that's exactly what has to happen. When you start playing these kind of games, you don't play with them like we're playing in Afghanistan, that goes on forever and ever and ever and ever. You have to go in quickly, viciously, violently, and win it, get it over with, and shut the door on it and go on to something else. But you can't be playing around with it.
Now, is France, which, by the way, has its last, whatever he was, president or premier, whatever he was, Sarkozy, he is now leaving France because of the tax rates. Can you imagine? It'd be like Bush leaving America because of the tax rates.
Yeah, I have a gut feeling that this is just a lot of talk. I can't imagine him actually pulling, in his position, actually pulling out of France and moving. But I've read the same stories.
Well, when you see the man who is France, and I can't pronounce his name, but that very good performer who's been in many American movies and is just well known, and a man who makes hundreds of millions of dollars, has made hundreds of millions, who did take Russian citizenship, that is like having whatever, Marilyn Monroe at the time she was a superstar, leaving America. I think we're going to see, and I have a friend who's an attorney, John Price, who has written a book saying that America will be destroyed because of its own actions. I can see a substantial number, a substantial percentage of the wealthy people in this country, as Obama moves to take their wealth, which is what he has to do in order to support his nirvana, saying no. Just like we had Americans run to Canada rather than serve because they were cowards, we're going to have the wealthy move because they're not stupid. Your thoughts, General?
You're right on target. I think that's exactly the way it's going to happen. We are moving in that direction. I didn't see Sarkozy leaving because of his political background, and he still thinks he may have a future of some kind in politics, so he can't leave. But the actor you're talking about, he certainly doesn't have those kinds of reticent things dragging at his feet, and he can afford to do that, and he's going to do it.
Well, he's already done it. He's already become a Russian citizen.
Yes, he has become a Russian citizen. I assume he kept the dual citizenship if he's smart.
Well, again, I don't know the particulars. Now, Greg, I think when you see the wealthy start to leave, you're going to see desperation, which is what That's really what's happened in France. A 75%, and the court struck down the 75% tax, but it doesn't make any difference. Socialism means eventually the government has everybody's everything, right or wrong.
Oh, exactly. And let's clear up the misconception of start to leave. They already have been for a long time. It's just not gotten a lot of fanfare, but if you start looking on the internet, you can find out all kinds of companies that specialize in helping the wealthy, first of all, move their money offshore. That's been going on a long time, hiding money from the government. Second of all, people, if you look at the boom in Costa Rica, Ecuador, and other places like that, that is being fueled by Americans who are fleeing the United States because of taxes, because they want to be able to have a standard of living that was only available 20 or 30 years ago on the money they had. So people are, in fact, leaving the United States to get away from the money, the taxation. They're leaving the United States because they don't see a secure future. You know, in the financial world, we talk about a number of different types of risk. You know, you have moral risk when you look at a company like Enron or Bernie Madoff or something like that. That is a moral hazard to your money, the chance that it will be stolen. But there's also an issue called political risk. And right now, the political risk of your money in the United States is extremely high. And many people are starting to look at that. Very wealthy people are looking at the political risk and the moral hazards of our banking system, and they are pulling out.
General, can you, of course, you're a constitutionalist, so it's hard for you to imagine people who would ignore the constraints of the Constitution. But in many other countries, we are seeing, Greece comes to mind, where they're saying you can't take your money out of the country, or very small amounts. Can you see that happening in the United States?
With this particular president, I can see it happening. It would not have happened under George Bush, for example. But this man seems to have no qualms at all about violating the Constitution at any turn. And he does it with impunity, and he's not held to account. And it does, and he obviously enjoys doing what he's doing the way he's doing, and he has a plan of some kind, I assume, down the road to destroy the economy of America and our moral fiber.
Now, when he was inaugurated, he laid out a game plan, and his game plan was, let me summarize it: socialism, Marxism, and hedonism. He wants to promote homosexuality because he is a homosexual. No one wants to talk about it. He wants to promote government being the center of everyone's life and the controller of everyone's life. And he wants to promote the elimination of the ability of people to object. Am I close?
You're right on target. If I couldn't have said it better. I think that's exactly where he is, and that's exactly his plan. And my guess is that for this next 4 years, it's going to be Katie bar the door.
Now, having said that, let me ask you to look into a crystal ball, and what do you think he will and they will get foisted upon the American public, and what do you think they will be unable to accomplish?
Oh, gee, I don't know how to answer all of that. My goodness. I think that in terms of being unable to accomplish, he'll be able to accomplish most anything he puts his mind to. That was very clear with the medical plan that he came up with. That medical plan, can you believe that in the United States of America you would have a document 2,000 pages long, or almost 2,000 pages long? Nobody has read it, and the entire House and Senate just say, yes, we'll sign off on it. Can you imagine that? Because that's where we are, and that's the sort of thing that's happening. He can do pretty much anything he wants to do, because there's going to be some objections by the Republicans. They will talk a little bit, but as we have seen, when it comes down to a showdown, they cave in. The Democrats don't seem to understand that they have a responsibility toward good government, toward clean and honest government, as well as the president having that responsibility. and that even though he's in their party, if he is not doing what should be done, what is honest and right and constitutional, they should be standing up and opposing him, but they're not going to do it, and the Republicans are going to cave.
Greg.
Well, the Republicans are on a retreat right now, and the very first thing they did was retreat on the debt ceiling. So I don't see them having anything resembling a backbone right now to stand up to this president, and I hate using that word, to be honest with you, considering the amount of voter fraud involved and the issues with his Social Security number and so many other issues that make me wonder if he's even the person he says he is, but that's a topic for another show. But in any event, I don't see the checks and balances of our political system working, as the general alluded to, and therefore I do not see him being stopped by anything short of a flat-out meltdown of the system resulting in, unfortunately, some sort of a revolution or civil war. So, unless the system collapses to the point where people take up arms to stop this, he will do and continue to do whatever he wants.
Now, we talked in the previous half hour.
By the way, before anyone accuses me of sedition, no, they will fire the first shot. The American people will only end up being on the receiving end until that happens.
We talked the last half hour about the line in the sand that government cannot cross will be confiscating people's firearms. And they won't just call out the 101st and tell them to march through the South, but they will start, and normally they start with the undesirable to the rest of us type people, whoever they might be. They'll take guns from people living in subsidized housing. They'll take guns from people on welfare. They'll take guns from people who are not paying taxes. Whatever, they'll find a strategy. It won't be all at once, but I see that being their plan. General, there was the Thousand Pines survey that asked service people at the time, would they follow an order to confiscate the firearms of Americans, and the majority said no, but certainly a percentage said yes. Do you see our military being used domestically to disarm Americans?
I think he would like to do that, but I think he also knows that it's going to be that'd be a very dicey and a very difficult thing to do, and I believe that's why he has raised up this counter army that he has and under Homeland Security Department, and you know the one I'm talking about, where they've been training all over the United States young people in firearms and in riot training, for example, and they say it's because things may get very difficult down the road, and the American people, the bad guys, may come out and shoot and all that sort of thing, but it's not really it at all. They're trying to figure a way around the United States military. And I think that they have figured it out pretty much. And how can we in this day and age, when we have such a terrible money crisis and crunch, and when we're reducing the size of our armed forces, how can we at the same time build up the size of a new armed force in the Department of Homeland Security?
We're going to talk about that after the break. A lot of people don't know what you're talking about. They don't realize that primarily in the minority community, many of these gang members, those are the ones that are filling the ranks, just like the Buccaneers used to go into the taverns. Well, they've gone elsewhere. We'll be back with more right here on Talk to Solomon. I like to eat. Do you like to eat? We all do. And usually we run to the grocery store, we run to the convenience store, or we have something in the fridge. But power's been out in parts of this country in the last few weeks. We don't know what's going to come down the pike economically. Smart people are putting in food. Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves is a line of foods that you can put away that will last for a very long time. You know, they say eat what you store and store what you eat. This is great tasting stuff, healthy for you, a full line. You go to our website, cpnlive.com, and click on the button for Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves and see all the different things we have. This is good tasting food. It's reasonably priced. It will last. And it's worth its weight in gold if a problem arises. I know you don't think there's going to be anything that goes wrong. Actually, you do. This is smart. This is smart insurance. This is smart preparation. This is smart thinking. You have kids, you have a spouse, you have parents, you have dependents, you have an appetite. All those things can be addressed by a frugal but smart investment in Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves. Try them out. You will be tickled to death with the taste of them. You know what? In many cases, people start to eat this and they think, heck, this tastes better and costs less than what you're going to the grocery store to buy. cpnlive.com, check it out. Do you like being healthy? I do. In fact, this product, which I've been taking for years now, is absolutely the answer. Now, you may not believe it, but I'm actually 21, plus tax, of course. This product has 146 different healthful nutrients in it, and it's liquid, so it's bioavailable. It tastes great, and it's sugar-free. 1 ounce of Sonic Life each day will help you to maintain and enhance your health. It's the kind of a gift, well, that you'll thank your mom for, your husband for, your wife for, your kids for. Whoever you give it to, they're going to say thank you, and you are going to enjoy the benefits of having all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the nutrients your body needs in one very reasonably priced product. Just go to cpnlive.com and everything's right there. You'll be able to read all the ingredients. The price is right there, a flat price delivered to your door anywhere in the United States of America. Sonic Life is a gift, a great gift. Give it to yourself. I do. Hey, my name is Stan Solomon, and you know if I have something to say, I'll say it. And I'll only tell you the truth because I'm a Republican, not a Democrat. Democrats always lie. Republicans only lie half the time. I don't lie at all. This is the Fuel Mule. It's an extraordinary product that was developed by a friend of mine, an engineer, and it increases the fuel mileage on your vehicle. If you have a combustion engine, this will increase your mileage by 10 to 20%. It bolts around your fuel line. You can install it yourself or have your mechanic do it. It is an extraordinary item, and it flat works. I've been using it for more than 10 years. It's increased my mileage on every vehicle I put it on, and by the way, it will last forever. You can get rid of your vehicle, just take it off and put it on the next one. Go to cpnlive.com. You'll have more information there. You can order it right there. We absolutely guarantee you'll be satisfied. The Fuel Mule. It's a way to kick down your cost of fuel and kick up your mileage. Don't you love the name? I thought of it. The Fuel Mule. You have a computer, if you're alive today, which means you have a hard drive, which means it's going to break down. Mosey, the backup people, for thousands, for Stan, for thousands of people, for tens of thousands of people, is simply common sense. You go to cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey, the backup people, and sign up. It's just a few dollars a month. Let me tell you something. We had a break-in. They stole our whole computer. You know what? When they take the computer, you can't recover anything, but we had Mosey. We had the backup. We were able to restore everything simply by buying another computer. cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey, the backup people, and give yourself common sense, peace of mind, great value, the best thing you've ever done. Sooner or later, it's going to be Mosey, the backup people.